And welcome. Raise your inner game today. I'm David Levin. This is our Friday episode, so we're talking about the inner game of life. Tuesdays are for the mental game of sports and competition. Fridays are for the rest of our lives. So how are you doing this week? How are things feeling? I hope all is going well and you're feeling good. Things are good here. Weather continues to be pretty nice. A bit chillier, but very nice. Had some worries about the storm in Florida. I'll get to in a minute, but all ended up well. Just continuing with our lovely fall groove. A few things to talk about this week. The hurricanes in the Gulf, the awful lies about FEMA and the storm response, political lying in general, a great anxiety-reducing activity, a minor medical mystery, and the music of John Waite. All right, we'll start with ups and downs. So what gave me a lift this week and what things were pulling me down? Pickleball was fun this week. Had a really fun night on Monday outside. And then Wednesday, this is actually interesting. We had our first game back in the gym for our local Park and Rec series. I started playing just this last January in this same gym. It's our middle school gym here in town. And of course, at the time, I didn't know anything else. Since then, I played a lot in a commercial facility up in La Crosse over the summer. That was great. Lots of room, dedicated courts with the correct size and markings and the surface all perfect. I've also been playing outside quite a bit these last couple of months. Not a great surface there, but still good. So now back in the gym, it's crazy. It sort of reminds me when you go back to the house you grew up in and it seems so much smaller than you remember. We are crammed in there. The nets touch each other at the edges. Normally you'd have 10 or 12 feet between courts. The slippery surface, the lines on the floor. It's hard to tell which ones are yours because there are so many other lines painted there too. Volleyball, basketball, some things I don't even know what they are. And with everyone being so close, the balls are flying all over the place, coming into your court, interrupting play. When I started, I just thought, this is pickleball, right? And it's great and I love it. But now I see that it's really just local folks figuring out a way to sort of play pickleball during the winter in the best facility they can come up with. It's still fun for sure, but it's also not quite pickleball for real. And it was just interesting and fun to see that. For my downs, actually quite a few this week. First, I mentioned, my elder son lives in Clearwater, Florida, right in Hurricane Milton's path. Every year some storm is heading their way and it ends up missing them. So much so that my notes to him every year asking if they're worried have gotten sort of cliched, like I have to ask, but it's never a thing. This year, it was a thing, pretty much a direct hit, though they weren't actually in the evacuation area. I think they're at a higher elevation, not at risk from the storm surge. Still, dangerous winds, potential power outage, plenty to worry about. So that was happening this week. Turns out it was all fine, though he said it was pretty scary. Intense wind, but no major damage. Everyone's safe. The other thing for me is just the election in general. I'm still pretty stressed that the polls, seem tighter than you'd want to see them. But beyond that, I am conflict averse enough that it stresses me out for people to even just have signs out in the first place. I'm on this team, you're on that team, I don't like you, we're enemies. Of course, it's not supposed to be like that. It's gotten so much more divisive and tribal, but it's just super stressful. There are a lot of Trump fans in our part of the state. They love big flags and lots of signs, and every one of them feels like a threat. It's stressful. Now, to be fair, I imagine our yard signs have a similar effect on them. Their side feels threatened too, though of course I think that's silly. Nevertheless, if the topic is stressors and things that weigh on me, this is a good one. So looking forward to it being behind us. All right, that's ups and downs. Next up, top stories. This week, the big news is the hurricanes, but really it's all the incredible lies and misinformation that came up around them. We really are heading into a time where it feels like we're just going completely insane, or at least half of us are. One track is the conspiracy theory stuff, and you can't even believe people are serious with some of this. Marjorie Taylor Greene, an elected U.S. representative, saying not only do they, which I assume means Democrats, do they have the power to control the weather, literally control the weather, the track and intensity of hurricanes, We can control that. But not only that, she said, it's ridiculous for anyone to lie and say it can't be done. What do you even do with that? How is that any less insane than believing the earth is flat? Really. By the way, on the flat earth front, there was an impressive video posted of Hurricane Milton seen from the space station. Idea was to show how massive the storm was, but also pretty clear, there's a big curve there along the edge of the earth, not flat, but never mind that. And then there's all the intentional lies about the government and FEMA's response. And this is all started with Trump. And it is so cynical. The only reason to do this is to somehow make Biden and Harris look bad, to take a situation that should bring people together, to help and support each other, and turn it into something that pits us against each other. The exact same thing he did with COVID. And it would be one thing if FEMA had dropped the ball, like they did in Hurricane Katrina, but by all accounts, from all the Republican officials on the ground, everyone in the federal government has done a great job. I haven't heard one credible complaint from anyone. But in spite of that reality, Trump and all his cronies are saying the exact opposite. Governors can't get Biden on the phone. Not true. FEMA doesn't have enough money. Not true. They don't have money because it was diverted to illegal immigrants. What? Ridiculous and not true. They're only paying $750 for losses. Not true. That's just the initial emergency medicine and groceries fund. FEMA is going to take over your property. Come on. Over and over, false claims of FEMA doing scary, nefarious things, made up lies out of whole cloth for the sole reason of winning the election. You can hardly imagine anything more irresponsible. And it's coming from people who should be responsible. Senators, Fox News, all kinds of people with real influence. The damage this does long term is immeasurable. The distrust, the division, it is genuinely destabilizing to our whole society, but they just don't care. We have to get back to a place where this matters, where people who abuse their positions of responsibility like this lose those positions. I don't know how we do get back there, but I also don't see how we move forward if we don't. You just cannot get your head around the depth of cynicism and irresponsibility and danger in this. On a lighter note, there was a fun moment this week when Trump, on a podcast, said, and he was so earnest when he said it, that he's basically a truthful person. And the host just cracked up, laughing. There's a link to that in the notes. That's fun to watch. But the big story for me is that Trump, and by extension the whole MAGA universe, have just taken on lying as their primary approach to politics and governing. It's like one big group of people are simply attacking reality. The whole concept of stating facts like weather forecasts and economic data is seen as a threat to them. And it could not be more dangerous and destructive. On the election watch, as if you needed more evidence of this, CNN put together an interesting piece recently called Fact Check 12 Completely Fictional Stories Trump has told in the last month. This was for the month of August. Complete fiction. So here we go. And remember, this is the leader of the Republican Party and possibly our next president. Number one, Harris is talking about and wants to bring back the military draft. Total lie. Not doing that in any way. Number two, she had notes during a CNN interview. She didn't have notes. Number three, you send your kid to school one day, he leaves home as a boy, comes back as a girl. They've done surgery on him without your permission. He's actually said that, like multiple times. He keeps saying it. That's just insane. Number four, Biden sent Harris to meet Putin before the Ukraine invasion. 3 days later, he attacked. It's completely false. She didn't meet him. They'd never spoken. Trump made it up. Number five, his famous claim that she at some point decided to turn black. Obviously fiction. Number six, halfway there, she was the first candidate to drop out of the 2020 Democratic primary. Actually, many others dropped out first. Number seven, regarding overturning Roe, he has said many times, every Democrat, every Republican, everybody wanted Roe versus Wade terminated and brought back to the states. That just makes me laugh. It's clearly, obviously ridiculous and verifiably not true. Number 8, if there was an honest vote count in California, I would win. Also very funny and sad. He lost California by 29 points. Number 9, speaking of sad, he has told the story many times that he won a Man of the Year award some years ago in Michigan. It never happened. There's no award. There's no evidence of it. Speaking of things that never happened, this was just this week, so it's not on the CNN list, but he said he visited Gaza. But he didn't. He hasn't. There's no record of him ever being there. I also saw a clip where he had just said governors couldn't get through to Biden about the hurricane. A reporter said, the governor just said he talked to the president. Trump said, no, he didn't. It really is a type of mental illness. Number 10, the Congo is emptying prisons and sending them to the U.S. Does that in any way seem possible? I mean, really, you think about that? No, it's not true. Number 11, almost there. The latest job report came out, and the numbers from the earlier quarter were revised downward. He claimed this was a big conspiracy. They were planning to wait until after the election for this, devastating news, but a Patriot leaker found them, forced them to release them early. It's just nonsense. They always update the numbers, and it was released on the regular schedule. And number 12, migrants in Springfield are eating people's pets. Here's the shocking thing, and again, you just can't get your head around it. Trump simply doesn't care if he's telling the truth. It's not a value to him. It's not important to him. He has no shame around it at all. It means nothing to him. Instead, he just makes up whatever story he thinks makes him look better in the moment. And it'd be one thing if it was just him, but this dangerous, destructive behavior and psychopathic behavior has taken over the entire Republican Party. You see it everywhere now. Anyway, that's top stories for this week. Next up, Inner Game Gold. Last week, we talked about the Stoic saying, amor fati, love the fates. I always find that helpful. This week, because it's such a great antidote to anxiety, we're going to revisit our old friend, the gratitude exercise. You may remember we've talked about 3 different versions at different times. There's the one from Sam Harris. Imagine something truly terrible has happened in your life, something, if it happened to you, you would give anything to get back to the way things were before. Like, for example, a storm comes through, destroys your house, everything you own is gone, maybe it even kills someone you love. And then to realize that your life right now is that place you'd want to get back to, and just put all that love and joy and appreciation and gratitude you would feel in that situation onto the life you actually have now. That's so great. There's my version where I imagine I have just regained some basic physical capacity after having lost them or it for a while, like from an injury. So I can sit up on my own. I can see out of both eyes. I can breathe without it hurting. Use my right hand again. Just basic things like that. And then again, just feel all that gratitude for those basic things we take for granted. That's a nice one. Also, just a small one. I do most nights before falling asleep. I think back through my day. What went well today? What am I happy about? Also super helpful. I think for getting good sleep too, to have that be the last thing I'm thinking about rather than something I'm worried about. Anyway, gratitude exercises. Wonderful, powerful tools for all kinds of situations. They help snap out of a negative, worried, fearful state. And of course, they help you feel grateful, which is a lovely feeling in itself. For more ways to improve your mental game, check out the Raise Your Inner Game book if you haven't read that yet. If you play sports, check out the Sports Academy training, perfect for that. Links here to both. Either way, this is a consistently helpful piece of Inner Game Gold, a gratitude exercise. Next up, raise your outer game. This week, I want to talk about health, but from sort of a weird angle. Basically, What do you do when you've got a physical problem or a symptom of some kind and no explanation? So I do a lot of recording, as you probably know, these pods, training videos, lots of time in front of the camera. And I have this problem that keeps coming up, which is that basically every time I sit down to record, at several points in the recording, my throat catches. It's like it sort of closes for a moment. You can probably hear it already if you think about it when I'm swallowing now and then. It's completely involuntary. Can't do anything about it. Doesn't happen all the time. I can't predict when it will. But there are times when it seems like I'm just not going to be able to finish the video. I can't get through more than a sentence at a time. I have no idea what's causing it. Maybe it's too dry in my office. Maybe it's a reaction to mildew or something. But it is super annoying. It makes recording way more difficult and time-consuming than it should be. And the worst part is I have no idea where to go to figure out how to fix it. My wife is a doctor. She has no idea. I don't think any ENT would know. It's just not the kind of thing they deal with. Searching online, I can't find anything about it. Maybe a voice coach would have come across it, but I don't know any voice coaches. I really have no idea. And then I think about people who have real health problems that they can't figure out. Mine is just annoying, but real pain, fatigue, cognitive issues, you hear that kind of story all the time. Symptoms the doctors can't figure out. And it just strikes me as one of the hardest high-gravity situations there is. You know something's wrong. You can't find any answers for what's causing it. That's a special kind of mental game challenge. Anyway, no suggestions for this, just, I guess, support and empathy for those who are in a situation like that. And if you have any thoughts on my throat problem, let me know. Next up, our challenge of the week. This week, let's do the gratitude exercise. I mentioned 3 variations. Sam Harris, connecting with how happy you'd be to get back to the life you have right now if something bad had happened. Mine with regaining basic function after an injury and how thankful you'd be for that. Or just a quick check-in. What am I grateful for today? The one thing I would watch for with that last one is to look for small specific things. If you just say, what am I thankful for? You're likely going to come up with the same things every time, right? My family, my health, the big things. And the effect of that then can fade pretty quickly. But if you get granular, like what good things happened today, that probably works better over time. I would do this more than once this week, maybe even every day. Spend a couple minutes bringing this feeling of gratitude to life in your inner world, your thoughts, your feelings. And of course, as always, writing down your feelings multiplies the effects and the benefits. So that's the challenge of the week. Gratitude exercise to counter the anxiety and stress we're all feeling right now. Next up, highly recommended. I'm getting to the end of the book, We Solve Murders. I've mentioned that a couple of times. Enjoying it more now. He does create great, fun characters. Probably still recommend Thursday Murder Club more, but this is a good one too, for sure. I bought a little personal humidifier this week, seeing if it would help me with my throat issue. Doesn't seem to be making much difference with that, but it's an impressive little unit. Completely silent, like literally no sound at all. You can hear. Puts out quite a bit of vapor. The points against it are, it has a weird light feature, and it's hard to figure out how to turn that off because the manual is genuinely terrible. But it's only $10 like that on Amazon, and it's pretty great. Easy to recommend that. For shows, nothing new to report here. I was excited to hear that Apple TV is going to make their shows available on Amazon Prime. I always feel a little bad talking about shows that people don't have access to, and most of the shows we watch, it seems like, are on Apple TV. But then I read that it's still going to cost the same. It's like $10 a month. You'll just pay it at Amazon versus Apple, so it wasn't that exciting. For music this week, I heard the song Missing You by John Waite. I think it was playing in the waiting room at the doctor's office. It just reminded me how much I loved that song. I don't know if you know, I ain't missing you at all since you've been gone away. Oh, God, it's great. Anyway, John Waite, you might remember, was the lead singer of the Babies back in the late 70s. You probably have to be my age to remember that. They were a great band, though. He played some of their hits back then. Interesting side note, Jonathan Cain, the keyboard player and one of the main songwriters in Journey, of course they were giant, was in the Babies right before he joined Journey, and you can hear his writing style in some of those Babies tracks. Anyway, I always loved John Waite's voice, and this song, Missing You, just killed me at the time. And some songs just do that, right? Everything about them is just perfect for where you are at the time. Listening back now, it's probably not my all-time great list, but it does hold up pretty well. His performance is great. His voice is great. It's interesting, too, to think about singers who you think are going to be just around forever because they're so amazing, but they sort of disappear. And I think that kind of applies to him. I don't remember hearing much of anything from him after that record, though I still think he's one of the great all-time rock singers. Eddie Money, if you remember him, Baby, hold on to me. Whatever will be, will be. Man, when he came out, I thought this is the new Rod Stewart. He's going to be huge. He had a couple of big hits, and then he disappeared. Another one, Terence Trent D'Arby, if you know that at all. His late 80s, Wishing Well was one of his songs. Sign Your Name, another one, Sign Your Name Across My Heart. That guy, great voice, great just whole vibe, persona, interesting writing. Where did he go? I mean, music is basically a fashion business, right? Things come and go pretty quickly. It's super rare to have any success, and even more to stick around. But still, when someone has talent like that, it's just surprising when they disappear. Anyway, that was my music rush this week. John Waite, Missing You. And that's highly recommended for this week. Reminder, for more ideas on how to overcome anxiety and stress in your life, check out Raise Your Inner Game book or the Sports Academy training if you're an athlete, raiseyourinnergame.com for that. Otherwise, once again, that's it for this week. I hope you have a great week. Keep up the good work. I will talk to you next time.